Traders, how are you? With Marcello, founder of the Day Trading Academy. Today, we're going to be doing the recap of what happened in the markets last week. Not a whole lot of quote unquote economic news, but we do have a bank run in China because people were denied their withdrawals. Record heat waves in both Europe and the US. And we even have a situation where they're going to might start exporting the food again from Ukraine. We are starting to have a few more red flags, let's call them, in regards of the kind of economy that we're walking into with the recession and the economic crisis. Overall for the week, stocks were mostly positive, mostly due to the earnings reports from a lot of the companies, but there wasn't any kind of overarching news that people were paying attention to outside of the fact that, little things, inflation rates and unemployment numbers. Next week is going to be the big number where the Central Bank of the United States actually decides whether, I should say, how much they're going to increase the rates by. And that obviously is going to shake things up quite a bit. Overall for the week, U.S. markets in Canada, mostly positive, quite a bit, 2-3%, most of them. One of the red flags that I mentioned is that in overseas market news, the IPOs, the initial public offering, where companies go public for the first time in both the US and the EU, have fallen by 90% this year. They've postponed or canceled their plans to go public, and they have fallen 71% globally from a year ago. So now there used to be about 1,200 and change, and now it's down to about 600. Which that kind of indicates the kind of market that we're in. People aren't getting as much money as they used to. People are less inclined to invest their money as well. European markets mostly positive as well. Istanbul being an emerging market, a little bit more volatile, mostly positive. Latin American markets mostly higher as well. Protests in Argentina. Argentina was being the biggest positive so far this week at over 9%, quite a big move. And then the far east, the India Sensex being the most positive of all. Most of the markets in the Far East, Australia, Asia, were up 3-4%. Middle East and Africa, Saudi Arabia taking the crown with over 7%. Bitcoin and crypto news, not a whole lot of crypto news. If you guys remember that pattern, I should call it, of what we're expecting Bitcoin to do. I don't really follow Bitcoin. You guys know I'm not really, I prefer things like silver and real estate and other kinds of things. But the pattern has made itself. That's not how you say it. I always do the Spanish videos first, so my English grammar might not come out. The pattern that I showed you guys actually made it exactly as we expected it to be. Now there's a question of whether it's going to go up or go down. I still think that the market has a little bit of down pressure, but again, as I always mention to you guys, it's going to go up, it's going to go down. It's super volatile. I have no doubt in my mind that in the future, it'll probably get to $8 billion, the price of Bitcoin, and make new record highs. And some of the news this week, the Dutch central bank has fined Binance, which is the biggest crypto exchange in the world. They fined them $3.35 million for doing business inside of the Netherlands without getting permission, without being registered in the country, I should say. And the world's largest non-exchange Bitcoin whale sold 15,500 Bitcoin worth $350 million at the current price this week. So you can see, even though we kind of had this little bit of a recovery, which is what we were expecting, right? It's kind of bounced up and down between two trend lines. I still think we have a little bit more down pressure. Bitcoin higher for the week, up 8%, over 8%, just touched over 20,700. In commodities, here's where a lot of the good news. Conspiracy Marcello will be around the corner very soon. Helping global markets on Wednesday, Russia and Ukraine are nearing a deal to end a blockade for the grains. Remember that between Belarus, the country of Belarus, Ukraine, and Russia, they export a tremendous amount of things like fertilizer and grains, which obviously affects the global market. Now, one of the things that's really serious in regards to the food situation. Remember, we started talking about this in 2020 during the pandemic. Conspiracy Marcello officially made his appearance then. California is the 5th largest supplier of food in the world by itself. California. The United States is the largest exporter of food in the world. Well, that entire area, for example, the Central Valley in California provides 1/4 of the U.S. food, so 25%. Now, the whole western part of the country is in this mega drought, and according to a peer-reviewed study, this is the worst drought in 1,200 years, going back to, for example, the Vikings and the Mayans. So it's not just, in my opinion, right, conspiracy Marcello. I think they're doing it on purpose. Remember all the food processing plants that have been destroyed. 2 of them, for example, were hit by planes. What are the odds of one processing plant being hit by a plane, let alone 2? But remember, for example, that they're passing kind of this Green New Deal, climate, save the climate stuff in the Netherlands being the second largest exporter of food in the world. And remember, if you guys remember the last few weeks, they were protesting, they were putting tractors blocking highways, they were throwing animal excrements at the offices of the politicians. And so now we have the United States, 25% of an area that of the largest food exporter in the world is having the worst drought in 1,200 years. So I think we're having this double whammy. And the point of me telling you this is the preppers are right. Make sure you prepare yourself. We'll bring back Conspiracy Marcello here in a moment. Turkey just disclosed the second largest reserves of rare earth metals in the world. They're rarer than things like gold and silver, just to kind of give you an idea. China has the biggest reserve in the world at 800 million tons. But this is big news because it's going to lessen our reliance, I should say, on the supply of China. India's seasonal rains are curtailing demands of the world's third largest energy consumer. The reason why that's important is because that means that we might have a cap on oil, the price of oil, over the next few months, because every time that India goes through its monsoon season, the rainy season essentially, they drop their demand for oil. So that would help us out a little bit in terms of the inflation. Russia gas giant Gazprom declared force majeure versus European natural gas buyers. Putin is saying that he's going to continue to send the gas through the Nord Stream 1 pipeline, which is the biggest gas pipeline in Europe, but it's going to be at a cap. So obviously we still have the situation with the Ukraine war, the sanctions, Russia using their gas, their natural gas and also their oil as a weapon against Europe. U.S. crude for the week was down over 3%, 94.70, while Brent was up over 2% at 103.20. And then copper prices, remember that copper, just like, for example, the IPO information where we have a not record low, but a huge drop in companies going public and the valuations collapsing as well. That's kind of a red flag about the very bad economy that we're walking into. Copper, remember, is an industrial metal and kind of the leading indicator of those. And the price so far this year is now at a low for the year. So remember that copper, industrial metal, if the economy was doing great, everything was booming, they would be getting a lot of copper, so the demand would go up and the price would go up, right? So now it's backwards. The economy isn't doing well, so there's a lot less demand for copper, so the price is going down quite a bit. Again, another red flag about what's awaiting for us. Precious metals on Friday, waiting for the central bank in the U.S. to make their decisions, which they should announce this week coming up. Gold for the week was up 1.09% at 1,728, while silver was down 0.85%, my dear silver, to 1867. Finance and banking news. There's been a boycott in China of people paying their mortgages on unfinished construction projects. So essentially, they have a reason not to pay them. This is a huge debt implosion that can occur because now the property managers of these properties have stopped paying their bills as well. Now, the Chinese real estate market is the largest asset class in the world. Now, another problem with that is remember that China is the second largest economy in the world, and 70% of the assets, people's wealth in China is tied to real estate. In the United States, we have the stock market, right? But they don't have as developed of a stock market as we do. And people are a little bit more old fashioned, and especially a lot of these newer economies coming up, like even Colombia, for example, same thing. A lot of their real estate, a lot of their assets are in real estate. So this can create a huge asset bubble because obviously if they stop paying their bills, And that's going to, it affects the banks. It affects the banks. That affects international financial system. There was a bank run also in China where a bunch of regional banks, not national banks, but regional banks, were not allowing people to withdraw money. You guys will probably see the video. They'll plug it in here. But basically what they said is you can save your money, but you can't just take it out. You just can't take it out of the bank because it's an investment product. Imagine if that happened in the US, which I think may happen eventually 5-10 years down the road. But remember to leave your like. We're not raising the price of the like button, even though everything is exploding in price. It helps a lot with the algorithm. And share it with a friend that needs to start preparing, like the preppers that were right. Blackstone, which is the largest U.S. residential and commercial landlord, is preparing a $50 billion fund to buy real estate during the coming crash. And compared from a year ago, the prices at the grocery store for Americans have gone up 32% for the 12 months ending in June. Overall, food prices are up over 10%, which is the largest annual increase since February 1981. Yay, the government. Biden inflation has cut the middle class income by $6,828. And if we compare that to the previous president, which was Trump, he increased wages by $6,000. Bread prices alone in the United States have been pushing for premium options to $10 a loaf and above. So hopefully you guys are getting your hustle game on. Make some videos on YouTube, learn how to trade, make a little bit extra money, because it's going to get worse. It's not going to get better. The actual inflation rate, possibly 18.2%. If you guys don't know of Peter Schiff, he's a little bit annoying to listen to, but he has some very good points. And the actual export prices in the United States, meaning the products that we export overseas, the prices have actually gone up 18.2%, which is more of a gauge of what the inflation actually is. And if we actually use the indicator or the calculus that we used in 1980, we calculated inflation now the same way that we did in 1980, the inflation rate would actually be at 18%. So your grocery bill has gone up 32%, but just remember the government, it's only 9%. You can believe what they say. New Zealand CPI rose 7.3%, which is a 32-year high. UK CPI, which is the price index of the consumers, went up 9.4%, highest in 40 years. Eurozone inflation hit a record high at 8.6%. And then the UK producer input is at 24%, going up 24% at the end of June. So remember what I always kind of explain to you guys, if the cost to produce a service, if a cost to produce a product is 24%, for example, in the UK, but the inflation rate, can't see the video here, my hand in the video, no, it's right. So if the inflation rate in the UK is 9.4%, that means that it's costing 24% to produce something and it's only increasing 9.2%. That means that 24% eventually is going to catch up with the CPI, which means that prices are most likely going to increase. And this is everywhere. German producer price index for industrial products went up by over 32%. And that's a big note because remember that Germany is the fourth largest economy in the world, but not only that, one of the major exporters in the world. And the euro reversed its parity with the US dollar due to the fact that the ECB, which is the central bank of the United States, decided to raise their interest rates by 50 basis points or 0.50%. A lot of people don't understand. I saw in the comments there what basis point. So they increased it higher than what they issued a guidance on, which was 25 basis points or 0.25. So that obviously increased the demand for the euro quite a bit. Political news, Italy is in a crisis. They're holding a snap national election in September 25th after the Prime Minister Mario Draghi decided to go ahead and resign on Thursday. Economic news, the overheated U.S. housing market is starting to cool down, and a lot of industry analysts are saying that this is the real estate shakeout. Sales of previously owned homes went down by 5.4% to 5.12 million units, 14.20% lower compared to a month ago. And this is now down to the levels that we had during the pandemic year in June 2020. U.S. single-family housing started to come in at a 2-year low in June, 8% down for the month and 16% down for the year. And for the week, the initial claims for the state unemployments, the unemployment claims for new people asking for unemployment has gone up for the third straight week to the highest in 8 months. It rose over 7,000 at the week ending July 16th. Corporate news, Goldman Sachs, which is the world's most powerful bank, lost another $660 million in Q2 trading stonks. They lost over $1 billion in Q4 and also Q1. So Q4 2021 and Q1 2022. BlackRock, largest hedge fund in the world, has lost $1.7 trillion over the last 6 months. There is roughly about 15 to 20% of all of their assets. And Snapchat, according to their horrific quarterly earnings, they're down 39% on Friday, down under $10, and they attributed it to the demand for the online platform because of Apple 2021 iOS update and then the competition from firms like TikTok. US-based Verizon Communications also fell over 6% on Friday, plunging to their biggest drop in 14 years after they added concerns about the spending of the consumer. AT&T reported that consumers are stopping paying their cell phone bills because they have other bills like food they need to pay for, which is actually something really important. Meta fell over 7%. Their ad revenue has been declining in their last quarterly report. So again, more red flags going up left and right. Monday, Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway bought another 1.94 million shares of the US-based Occidental Petroleum. They're now at a 19.4% stake. I know about kind of all this, we need to get off oil and the Green New Deal. We need to get on clean energy. Remember, I always told you guys, don't pay attention to what they say. Pay attention to what they do. If Warren Buffett is buying billions of dollars in a petroleum company, the world-renowned, one of the best investors in history, that should kind of tell you everything. Amazon is cementing their position in the healthcare space. They bought a company called One Medical, a primary care provider, for $3.49 billion. All cash deal. They're now going to consolidate another one that they bought to be able to go ahead and break into the U.S. healthcare space. And Apple, in addition to Google, as I reported to you guys last week, Apple now is going to slow hiring and spending on some teams, according to Bloomberg. So now we even have companies slowing down their processes as well. In trade news, the EU is amending their sanctions on Russia to be able to allow the unfreezing of some funds at Russian banks. This is due to the fact that they want to get the trade going for food and fertilizer. So it looks like the West finally came to their senses that they don't want everybody to go hungry. And in in technology this week, Alphabet's Google said on Friday that they dismissed a software engineer claiming that their AI chatbot Lambda was a self-aware person. How many videos have we seen of where the Terminator, the AI comes to life and kills everybody? Google obviously denied the news because they didn't want people to know that it was sentient, but who knows what the truth is. In investment news, the median price for a U.S. home has roughly increased $100,000 since Biden was inaugurated in January of 2021. Housing inflation is 5 times the national average before Biden took office, along with rising mortgage rates. It basically means that for most Americans, a lot of homes now are out of reach to be able to purchase. Macau, which is the casino kind of gambling area of China, is locking down everything again, industries, commercial firms, and venues. This is an effort again to go ahead and contain the spread of their new breakout that they have of COVID-19. And then in international events, tens of thousands of people are protesting the government, the socialist government of Argentina, due to worsening poverty and employment. If you guys didn't know, Argentina, Buenos Aires, known as the Paris of the South, was the richest country in the world in 1900. 75 years ago, they started voting for socialist policies called Peronismo, or Perón is the president. They've been voting for free stuff ever since, and poverty has gone up 50%. And they're trying to blame the current government, not knowing that they should just stop voting for socialists. Western Europe is experiencing record-breaking heat waves and triple temperatures. We're talking about 40, 45 degrees Celsius, 104, 110 degrees. There was an airport in UK, the fifth busiest airport in the UK, had to shut down because their what's it called? The airway? Their pista is how you say it in Spanish, in case you guys were interested. I have it here. Their tarmac, that's the word in English, melted because of the heat. There are raging wildfires throughout Spain, Portugal, and also France. In southern France, 14,000 people had to flee the fires. Over 27,000 acres of land are on fire at the moment. And even in Dubai, I saw something on social media where the back bumper and sides of the cars were literally melting off because of the heat there in Dubai. Remember what I always told you guys, the next 10 years, economic problems, social problems, and a lot of environmental problems as well. That's the news for this week, guys. Let me know if you guys have any questions. Don't forget to smash the like button. I haven't raised the price just yet. I might. And if you guys have any questions, leave them with the hashtag AskMarcello there in the comments. See you next week. Bye.